Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make different types of special effects makeup. In this first video, we are going to talk about how to make wounds. So we're going to be talking about fake blood and just making big, gaping, bleeding wounds. Please excuse my dogs. Alright, so for this, you will need, you'll need some sort of thin paper. Honestly, like tissue paper, white tissue paper is the best. I don't have that here at home, so I'm actually just using part of a Kleenex. I had a 2-ply Kleenex. I ripped it, so that way I just had one piece of it. You could probably try to use tissue or toilet paper as well. Toilet paper usually has texture on it though, so it'll make it kind of wonky looking. You'll need some glue. You'll need some toothpicks. You'll need some black and red face paint or tempera paint. You don't want to use acrylic paint because acrylic paint is just not meant to be put on bodies. It'll flake off a lot easier and it might cause a little bit of an irritation. If you have makeup sponges, you can use some makeup sponges. You'll need some paint brushes and you'll need some fake blood. I already have my fake blood all made up, but if you look at the lesson plan for this, I have the directions on how to make the fake blood. To make fake blood, you need some light corn syrup, some glycerin, a little bit of water, some dish soap. I actually usually use a different type of dish soap. You don't really want to use blue, but if that's all you have, that's fine. And then you need some red food coloring and a tiny bit of green food coloring. If you don't add the green food coloring, then your blood looks really fake because it's just really bright red, and blood is usually a little bit darker, so that's why you have the green. Then you might need some water and some paper towels just to clean up any messes and just in case you want to start blending out your stuff. This helps a lot. Alrighty, so we're ready to get started. Alright, we're ready to get started. I already have the first step done on this leg because you have to use glue and it has to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the first step on this leg, and then I will complete the demonstration on this already finished one. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your tissue paper or your Kleenex, whatever it is you're using, and you are going to rip out a shape. If you want a really big wound, you're going to make it really big. If you want it to be small, it'll be smaller. Now, you don't want any straight edges. Straight edges kind of show up easier against your skin, and it's obvious that it's fake. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to fold it in half again. I'm going to rip a hole out. Now, you don't want to get this too close to the edges because we will be having to peel this up a little bit. And if you have it too close to the edge, it'll just rip. Alrighty. So then I'm going to take my Elmer's glue and I am going to apply it to my leg. Sometimes I think it's easier to just kind of place your piece of paper on your leg, see about where it is, and then just take the glue and go in a circle about where it is, just to help get started. Then you can take a paintbrush and start spreading it out. Alrighty. Boys, if you're doing this, you might want to do this like on like your stomachs or your necks or something, somewhere where there isn't quite as much hair, because it is a little painful if you do rip it off. It shouldn't hurt too much though if you just hop in the shower and wash it off. It should come off fairly easily. Alrighty. So I have that down. Now we need to put one more layer over the top. So again, I'm just going to take my glue, go over it. You don't need to use a ton of glue. The more glue you use, the longer it does take to dry. You just need enough to make sure that you've covered it, and really make sure that these outside edges are smoothed down. The inside edges, if they're still flapped up a little bit, it's not that big of a deal because we will actually be going back in and pulling them up here in just a minute once it's dry. All right. now's a good time if you have your paper towels in water. It's best to go through while it's still wet and just get rid of any of the glue that's on the outside or here in the middle. All right, so that is the first step. So here it is once it's dry. If you can look at this and see some very obvious areas where there was glue, actually that might be part of my paper from earlier. I'm going to go ahead and rip that off. If there are any obvious areas where there was glue though, go ahead, clean it up a little bit, because when you start to paint, it'll look a little wonky. Yeah, see right here, all that. Alrighty. First thing we need to do is take a toothpick, and you're gonna just go under here and gently lift up just the inside part of this wound. This might hurt just a little bit. It shouldn't hurt too bad. If your paper's not dry yet though, you will struggle. If you're trying to do it while it's still wet, it's gonna rip on you a lot. And it's gonna be hard to actually get the toothpick under there. So if it's hard to flip up, that means you just need to wait a minute and let it dry a little bit more. Make sure you do the entire thing. Oh. There are some parts that sometimes get like extra stuck to your skin. Just be very gentle with it, go slow. There we go. I always do like go once around it again whenever I'm done, just to make sure that I actually got it all. There we go. All right, now I'm going to take a Q-tip and dip it in my black face paint. And we're gonna just put this black paint under that flap. And you're gonna kind of smear it out into the middle a little bit. You're gonna do this under the entire thing, just under the flap. Make sure that you kind of blend it out. You don't want just like a straight black line. You kind of want to blend it, because we will be going over it with the red. And if you don't blend it, it'll look really funky. Make sure that you actually get under these flaps. If you don't get under the flap, it'll look weird too. All right. So I have that. Blending it just a little bit more. So right now, this is what it looks like. Now I'm going to take a paintbrush and take some of my red face paint and start painting it in. Now I'm just using some really cheap face paint from Walmart that comes out like during Halloween time. So this isn't the best quality. It doesn't blend the best or look the best. And honestly, it's almost April, so, and I've had this for over a year now, so it might not be the best, but gives you an idea of what to do. Alrighty. Try not to fold that down. Paint it in so it's all red. Really try to blend it with the black. So you should have something that looks like this. If you want, you can go back over it a little bit more with a little bit of black and add like some lines to kind of make it look like your veins or your muscles or all that fun stuff. Something like that. All right, now we're ready to move on to the outside part. For the outside, once again, I'm going to take red and just start painting over all this on the outside. Now, if you have foundation, you can definitely add foundation to your tissue paper or your toilet paper or whatever it is that you're using, and it'll actually help it blend into your skin a lot more. I don't want to use my foundation though because it's my good foundation, so I'm not going to do that. But see, right now you can still kind of see where my white paper is versus where my real skin is. If you use foundation, it gets rid of that. So you're going to paint over the entire thing red first. Notice I'm painting back over those flaps. I'm painting over those flaps, so I might have to go back in with my toothpick and lift them up again. But that's fine. We can worry about that in just a little bit. This is probably the hardest part about making wounds because it takes patience. It's a lot of going back and forth. In a second, once I get all this red down, then I'm going to switch over and start adding a little bit of black. And this is also where people kind of get messed up. When they start to add the black, sometimes people add way too much and it looks a little bit funky. Alrighty. So I have my base of my red down. Now I'm going to go back in with some black. If you have some bigger paintbrushes, it definitely works better. I'm actually just going to kind of stipple some black on top. Stippling means you're like basically just adding dots. So see right there, I accidentally added way too much. So I'm going to have to go back over it with some red here in a minute. And again, this part, it is the longest part. It takes a lot of patience. All right, so now I'm going to go back again with my red. So there's a little bit too much right there. Let's see, I'm going to switch my brush so I'm not getting too much more black mixed in. So see, now it darkened that up, so now it doesn't look quite so fake. It doesn't look like bright red. Usually when you have a wound, it's not going to be just this bright red. It's going to be darker, things like that. Alrighty. Going over this. I used to teach this to some of my junior high kids at my old school, and they would just walk around the school with wounds all over them. And it looked like the school had been like under a zombie attack. If you want, this is also where you could use your makeup sponges. I forgot I had them out. I don't usually use makeup sponges, but you guys just kind of dab and it helps blend it out a little bit more. Another thing you can do for blending, take some of your paper towel in the water and go in some circles. I usually go back and forth between adding paint and blending like this because I think it just works better. Doing some little dabs. Now where your tissue paper was, the paint will stick better, so that's where you're going to want to focus the most on, and you're really going to want to like have it come out a little bit further from there. If you stop adding paint like right where your tissue paper or your toilet paper or whatever ends, that's gonna look weird. So again, on this part, you just have to keep dabbing it until it looks like what you want it to look like. Now, you don't want it to like just start and stop somewhere. It looks best if you blend it. So it's like a nice gradual change from normal skin to, oh my goodness, what happened? That does not look healthy. Is that person okay? I'm really struggling with this area right here. It's not really sticking to my skin very well. All right. So that's good enough for now. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to take my toothpick. I'm going to lift this back up. lift that up. So it looks like that. Then I'm going to take my fake blood, and this is what just really makes it look real. I would use a Q-tip when you're adding the fake blood. So you're gonna add it right inside all this that you just painted. Make sure you also put it under the flap and just really fill it up. If you want, you can put a little bit on the outside too. Make it look like it's dripping down your leg as well. Don't try to like paint it on though, because if you did like these black lines, I don't know how well it's shown up in the camera, but if you did the black lines, if you try to like paint this on, you'll accidentally kind of get rid of those. Whereas if you're just dabbing it like I'm doing with this Q-tip, it'll stay. Alrighty. So look at it, see what you think. Again, I don't like the way this area looks very much, so I'm probably going to go back over it just a little bit more. Just try to make that part look a little bit better. I don't think I did the best job blending over here on this side. We're just going back over it just a little bit more. Just like I said, the outside part, it is the hardest part. It takes the longest because it takes going back and forth until you actually think, okay, yes, that looks nice and blended. That looks like the best that I can honestly make it. It needs a little bit more black to it. Alright, now just I'm going to go back with my paper towel one more time, just to blend that out. And notice whenever I'm blending, for the most part, I'm just kind of dabbing it, pushing it out a little bit. Alright, there. I think that looks a lot better. Alright, so there we have it. You know, some of my blood's already dripping out. This fake blood does take a long time to dry. It will stay wet and ooey and gooey looking for a while. So be careful. Don't get it all over your stuff, especially if you're wearing white clothes. All right, there we go. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next one.